Tauros, the Gen 1 top tier sweeper and MVP of the Pokemon Oregon Trail until that untimely moment. The wild bull Pokemon may have been a threat back in the red, blue, and yellow days, but now it has become as much of a side story in the competitive scene as it is, well, everywhere else in the franchise. This is the history of Tauros. The Nintendo Cup will be used for first and second generation competitive play. After all, that was the used format of the time. Smogon singles format became popular during Generation 3, and thus it will be used as the standard format from Generation 3 through 6. I'm not covering VGC format, for Tauros has never been notable within it. Tauros' famous moveset during Generation 1 was Body Slam, Earthquake, Blizzard or Thunderbolt, and Hyper Beam. He is a normal type with high attack points, for the time, and phenomenal speed points. His defensive statistics are high enough to take any one hit when healthy. Due to Nintendo Cup rules, a trainer could only bring 3 of their 6 Pokemon into battle. Those 3 Pokemon's levels need to add up to 155, with the lowest level allowed being 50 and the highest being 55. Tauros was a common choice for the level 55 slot on a team due to his high speed points and the desire of a trainer to maximize its attack points. At the time, Tauros was widely considered a top 3 Pokemon in the metagame. This is due to the numerous strengths brought about by the mechanics of the red, blue, and yellow games. The meta itself assisted Tauros, as fighting types, who hit Tauros for stab super effective damage, were scared out of high usage by the most dominant typing in the game, Psychic, which possesses both defensive and offensive advantages over the fighters. This was great news for all normal types, as the greatest defensive weakness had been largely removed from opposing teams. All that was left were rock and ghost types. With normal stab being resisted by rocks and ghost being immune to the damage, a good normal mon would need coverage moves to hit those types. Tauros' access to Blizzard and a decent special stat eliminates the rock threat, as all rock types at the time are part ground, which is weak to ice. The only fully evolved ghost during Gen 1 was Gengar, who is part poison, so Earthquake covers the Grinning Spirit. Tauros' attack points are on the higher end of the charts by Gen 1 standard. This, combined with Body Slam, after same type attack bonus, or stab, has a power rating of 127 with a 30% chance to paralyze the opponent, which cuts their speed in half and adding the possibility that they would fail to act on their given turn. Additionally, Hyper Beam reached a 225 power rating and came with the bonus of skipping its need to recharge if the target or substitute were to be knocked out. Due to Gen 1 critical hit ratio mechanics, 110 speed points meant a 21.5% chance to land a critical hit. That is a 1 out of every 5 attacks on average. This, compared to, say, Snorlax's 5.9% chance due to its 30 speed points, is extremely impressive. Do note that Pokemon Stadium uses a different formula, leading to Tauros' critical hit chance being 17.19%. While lower, this is still phenomenally good. All of these features mixed together led to over 75% of the metagame being knocked out within 2 attacks from Tauros, and due to Tauros' bulk, it could stick around for those 2 attacks. It's worth noting that any Pokemon that could be listed as taking a hit from Tauros probably wouldn't be able to do so if a Hyper Beam ever were to crit. Except, rock types and ghost types, as they resist that typing or, in the case of ghosts, are immune. There were some Pokemon who could stand up to Tauros. Starmie, Alakazam, Jolteon, Persian, Electrode, and Dugtrio all outspeed Tauros and deal a decent amount of damage to him. The drawback being that they are all frail, meaning Tauros will likely dispose of them in one hit, especially with the critical, if they are not topped off on health points. Tauros, Snorlax, Zapdos, Exeggutor, Counter Chansey, and Cloyster can all take Tauros on 1v1 if healthy. With a special stress on Cloyster, as without Thunderbolt, which is less popular as a choice than Blizzard, it can wall Tauros barring a critical from Hyper Beam or being screwed by paralysis. Tauros, despite its monstrous wall breaking and sweeping potential, had its share of weak matchups. An outright counter to Tauros' game plan is the paralysis condition. Without speed, many of Tauros' strengths disappear. He's also likely to be fully paralyzed, taking away his action for the turn. Any Pokemon that outspeeds or endures a hit, then paralyzes Tauros is a check. Outside of that, Lapras, Slowbro, and Articuno can all eat Tauros' hits reliably, although they do prefer to avoid Thunderbolts and critical Hyper Beams. Golem and Rhydon switch into normal stabs and even Earthquakes well. Unfortunately, this is mostly a pivot move, as neither of these monsters take Blizzards well, nor do they inflict any impressive damage to a healthy Tauros. Gengar can switch in on normal moves with ease and doesn't mind special moves. They must be able to knock Tauros out either with Thunderbolt or Self-Destruct, or switch into a teammate that can take a hit, because Earthquake averages 3/4 of its health. Moving on to Generation 2, Tauros' preferred moveset shifted to Double Edge, Earthquake, Rest, and Sleep Talk. Hold items were added to the game, and the Bull preferred leftovers for this set. The levels varied from 50, 52, or 55. This is likely due to Tauros' role being more defensively oriented this time around. All Pokemon now have a special attack and special defense statistic. Tauros' special points became its special defense, while its new stat became 40 special attack. Generation 2's mechanics changed much of what made Tauros top tier in Generation 1. For starters, special typed attacks are nearly worthless on the Bull, with a special attack of 30 points less than its Generation 1 counterpart. Now Rock types and Zapdos wall Tauros more efficiently. Hyper Beam must recharge the turn after its use, regardless of whether it knocks out its target, weakening Tauros' burst damage and finishing potential. Additionally, critical hit ratio mechanics are no longer based off the speed stat. All Pokemon have a base chance of 6.25%. This lowers Tauros' overall damage output in Gen 2. Steel-type Pokemon are added to the game, and they resist many types, including normal. Between secondary typings removing the Steel type's ground weakness, or, in the case of Steelix, having a defense stat so high Earthquake fails to threaten it, Tauros finds itself walled by more Pokemon than in Gen 1. Dark types are introduced, to balance Psychic types, with Psychic types becoming less common, along with the buffs to Machamp, and the addition of Heracross to the Fighting type lineup, Tauros finally had to worry about its Fighting type weakness. Tauros also faced competition for a team slot, with Snorlax being the meta-defining Pokemon of the generation with its newly acquired 110 special defense, leftovers to recover health over time, and the move Curse, which allowed it to raise its attack and defense points every turn while lowering its already abysmal speed. In other words, it only benefited from the trade. Miltank could also be argued to run Tauros' set better due to its access to Milk Drink and Heal Bell alongside superior defensive statistics. With all of these changes taken into account, Tauros was by no means bad during the Gold, Silver, and Crystal games. It was considered top 15 by many. However, it did take some notable hits from its previous stature. Generation 3 brought even more changes for Tauros to adapt to. Its popular moveset became Return, a 102 base power normal stab, Earthquake, Hidden Power Ghost, because all Ghost type moves inflict physical damage during the first 3 generations, and Double Edge. The newly added Choice Band was held to boost attack points, and Natures are now implemented, of which Tauros preferred Adamant to increase its attack power or Jolly to increase its speed. Individual values and effort values are implemented, and Tauros' EV spread maximizes its attack and speed. With abilities now present, Tauros gains Intimidate to lower the foe's attack points upon switching. Also worth noting, Smogon became the preferred format during this time. These are 6v6 matchups with level 100 Pokemon. By Smogon tiering, Tauros was borderline, which is the equivalent of tier 1.5. Not strong enough to be overused, the first tier, but too strong for underuse, the second tier. EVs create a dilemma for Tauros. All Pokemon can only max out 2 stats at most. Since Tauros' best stats are both offensive, he now takes far more damage in this generation than he did in the previous 2. Will-O-Wisp is added, making the burn condition more accessible. Tauros is countered just as hard by this condition as he is by paralysis. Worst yet, Ghost types commonly carry the move. Defensive Ghost types flood into the roster, such as Dusclops. They can burn Tauros, and even before that, they can eat his hits. More rock, steel, and fighting types flood into the upper tiers, while Tauros does not have a reliable method of dealing with them. That being said, Tauros is still respected as a reasonably tough offensive Pokemon. Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum brought about what many consider the most balanced single battle experience in Pokemon history. So, how did the Generation 4 meta affect Tauros? The standard moveset became Double Edge, Earthquake, the new move Stone Edge, or Return, with Payback or Pursuit to hit Ghost types. A Life Orb was used to increase damage output in exchange for 10% of the user's health, or a Choice Scarf to raise its speed for revenge knockouts. A Jolly nature became preferred, and Intimidate continues to be used over the situational anger point. The biggest change for Tauros is that moves are now either physical or special, instead of this being based on the typing of the move. This removes Hidden Power Ghost from relevance, since Hidden Power is a special move, but grants Payback and Pursuit as a physical dark coverage to fill the void. More importantly, some types that would always hit Tauros on the physical side now have the option to hit him on his frailer special statistic. Pokemon stat points experienced a more noticeable power creep during this generation. More Pokemon had impressive stats, both offensively and defensively. Taurus's once high attack power lacked a punch in the meta. To make matters worse, hazards became standard on teams. Entry hazards were once stall team exclusive by tendency, but now Stealth Rock was a factor. The move could be set up, be effective, and didn't even require laders in order to leave an impact. As a result, the more damage a Pokemon takes from Stealth Rock, the more of a liability they become for a balanced metagame. Tauros dropped to the never used tier, but the lowest battling tier for the format was underused, so Tauros saw some play there. This being said, that doesn't mean that Tauros was the worst Pokemon. It may have been in the lowest tier, but there's certainly Pokemons that recorded less usage or next to no usage in the underused tier. Moving on to the next generation, Pokemon Black and White as well as their sequels treated Tauros well. For the first time, he had two high usage movesets. The first set is built around his new ability, Sheer Force. Mechanically, this combos well with Life Orb to boost the power of any move with a percent chance of anything beneficial happening to increase by 60% in return for removing that beneficial stat. Better yet, the 10% recoil from Life Orb is removed when using these moves. Rock Climb and Zen Headbutt take advantage of Sheer Force, while Substitute helps protect Tauros from status conditions. Onto the second one, Taurus' Choice Scarf set from the previous generation, but substituting for the Payback is Retaliate, a new normal type move that doubles its power whenever used after one of your allies fainted the previous turn. While all of these are advantages for Tauros, there were some issues. The balanced meta is still present, and Tauros still struggles to break through the same walls since Generation 2. But the number of Pokemon that can force Tauros off the field and take it out with ease have increased in this meta, containing high attack fighting types and defensive steel types in the upper tiers. There's no space for Tauros. As such, Tauros remained never used, but at least the tier became a recognized battle format, making Tauros Tier 4. The 6th generation Pokemon games brought about Mega Evolution, Fairy types, and fully 3D graphics to the Pokemon handheld line of games for the first time. Tauros' stature in the metagame, however, was not one of the changes. Tauros' standard moveset became a reworked version of his 5th generation Sheer Force set. Just this time, Fire Blast with a naive nature was added to hit the newly prominent defensive steel and grass types in the never used tier. Iron Tail was added to hit fairy and rock types, or Zen Headbutt could be used to hit fighting types. The highlight issue for this set is its accuracy. Only Earthquake lacks a lower accuracy, which makes the reliability of this set suspect. Outside of that, not much changed. Tauros maintained its role as a revenge killer on teams and still generally struggles to strike fear into the hearts of its foes. That said, its usage within the tier is at least 8%, which means it is the top 50. For the never used tier. The bull still hates burns and paralysis. It struggles to eliminate steel, rock, ghost, and physically defensive Pokemon that lack a weakness to its coverage. Welp! At least he found his niche as a transportation service. Woohoo! Yeah! You paged that, Tauros! So, how good was Tauros? Well, he was good during the first 3 generations, then started his rapid decline throughout the 4th, 5th, and 6th generations. That's it. Thank you for watching the video. I'll have a new video up next week. So, leave a comment of what Pokemon you want to see next. Until then, stay cool, my noobs.